Ken is not only the Vice President Administration of Brock University, but also an exemplar of international student success in Canada. He will speak to us from that perspective. I will now pass on to Ken.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you. And first of all, I want to thank Brock International for inviting me to be part of this very special week. And for me personally, as someone who arrived in Canada many years ago as an international student, and now a proud Canadian citizen, it's a privilege and an honor to share my time with you. And also for you to say thank you for making the time out of your busy week to spend time with all of each other and with myself today. So I just want to start with my personal journey and share with you my path to where I am today, but also weave in the core competencies that will help you achieve success in your career. I was born in Brunei, and Brunei is a small country of about 400,000 people located on the island of Borneo, which is in the South China Sea and is part of ASEAN, the ASEAN region, and part of the Southeast Asian region. And together with Brunei on the island of Borneo, the Indonesian state of Kalimantan and the Malaysian states of Sabah and Sarawak. And it's kind of right in the middle of the Southeast Asian region, north of Australia, south of Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, China, Hong Kong, Japan. So just kind of give a sense of perspective in terms of where Brunei is. So I moved to Vancouver to finish my high school as an international student and started my undergraduate degree at Simon Fraser University. I took political science and criminology, but it wasn't until my third year that I decided what my major and minor were going to be. And I started coming in business courses, dabbled in the various arts and sciences, and eventually landing in political science and minor in criminology. And for me, partway through my undergrad studies at Simon Fraser, my parents landed in Canada, and I became a permanent resident. And shortly after I graduated from Simon Fraser University, I had the honor and privilege of becoming a Canadian citizen. And I want to share with you my experience through that journey, and specifically my advice both on career, personal and social success. After my undergraduate degree, I went on to do a master's in business administration, also out in the West. And I decided after getting my MBA to give back in some form of public service. And I actually decided to be a police officer, and I did that here in Ontario, in Peel region, where Mississauga and Brampton are located. And during my time as a police officer, I did frontline police work. I was in a patrol car, and I also had the opportunity to be an investigator. Started out as an investigator with the drug squad, and then later on working in the homicide squad. And it was a very competitive process to become a police officer. There were lots of people who wanted to be police officers, and for myself, as a young immigrant to this country, certainly it was it was a challenging process, but I knew I could do it. And what enabled me to be a strong candidate as a police officer was my engagement with the community, my volunteer work in the community, and that began during my time as an international student, as an undergrad at Simon Fraser University. And I knew then, I reflected on one of my dreams as a young boy growing up. I wanted to be a police officer, and And I thought, wow, coming to Canada, that's not impossible, right? Because when you look around a city like Vancouver, cities like Toronto, Montreal, and other major urban areas, you want a police force that's representative of the people it is there to serve and protect. So I said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to be a police officer. So during my time as an undergrad student, I volunteered in the community, and I first started out as a volunteer court worker at the Vancouver courthouse, and I was an undergrad studying the basics of criminal law, the criminal justice system, and how I was able to give back to the community was to spend one day a week, and it was a Friday morning. I remember this. I would be going into the criminal courthouse in Vancouver, where I would be meeting with people who have been charged, and they're not guilty yet. They've been charged with an offense. And they would come in and wanting to know who to talk to, where to go. And oftentimes my first question is, do you have a lawyer? And if the answer is no, they do not have a lawyer, I will show them where they can speak with duty counsel, which is a fundamental part of our criminal justice system. Free legal advice where the lawyer can help them navigate through their first appearance in court. And then I will show them where the courtroom is and just give them some basics of how the courtroom would work. So this is the judge or the justice of the peace. This is the prosecutor. This is where your lawyer would sit. If you don't have one, duty counsel would there be to support you, and really there's no opportunity for you to make your plea of guilty or not guilty and adjourn to get you time to get a lawyer. About the same time, I also volunteered with the local police department in the mall. So one day a week, I would be, or one morning a week or one afternoon a week, I would be in the community police office. And this is where I would take the non-criminal reports. Someone come in with a noise complaint or has an issue that they would like to follow up by police. I'll take a report, and then I'll send it into the full-time employed police officers and the civilians who work there, and also help with crime prevention. So I would go to the various events in the community, to remind people to lock the doors to their cars. I told them to etch their serial number on the bicycles, so if it's stolen and recovered, that's a way to track down the owners. So when it came time to me to compete and apply to be a police officer, I was able to demonstrate my community engagement, my commitment as a volunteer, and my commitment to the profession of policing, and that enabled me to be a successful candidate as a police officer. The other experience that really enriched my time as an undergraduate student was to be involved in student government. I was elected by students to the University Senate and the Board of Governors. That helped build my leadership capacity, my ability to communicate effectively, my ability to learn how to engage with senior people in the university, my also opportunity to debate and put forward strong arguments. And one of the things that I want to share with you as well as an early part of my my seminal career as a student, eventually something that guided me as an adult, and all the way through to my time as a VP at Brock today, is in seizing the opportunity to practice intercultural fluency. You know, the one advice I give to you, and that was the advice my father gave me when I left Brunei as a teenager, was when you come to Canada, don't be too comfortable with the people from your own country, your own region, or your own ethnicity, because I've had my whole early life as a young child, my early teens, to do that with people I grew up with people I live with, people I'm comfortable with. And my father had said to me, you're gonna go to Vancouver, you're gonna meet people from all around the world. And I did that, and I challenged myself to form strong friendships with people from India, from Pakistan, from South America, from Europe, from the Middle East, from all across North America, from South America, because that really enabled me to grow my intercultural fluency, and that's actually helped me later on in life. And I'll share with you some examples as to how that's helped me. They also enabled me to become familiar with other cultures, and also helped me grow to be more appreciative of our unique differences, but also the strength of diversity. When people from all walks of life, all backgrounds, all ethnicity, all religion come together, and we embrace our uniqueness, what we bring to the table, but also at the same time come together and embrace what that multiculturalism strength would mean for all of us. And as we look at how global the work community is, and now with the advance of remote working, we're dealing with people from various parts of the world in a way that we couldn't imagine before the pandemic. So my advice to you is use this opportunity to get to know people from around the world, and also use the opportunity to meet people who have spent their whole lives in Canada, or a big part of their lives in Canada, because certainly this is also an opportunity for you to learn about the uniqueness of living in a Western country like Canada. One of the core competencies is to be curious, and I can tell you that I'm a curious person. Even today, my curiosity led me to working at a university. So while I was an undergrad student studying political science, I started meeting with politicians and people involved in politics. And for me, this was a new experience, having come from a place where there are no elections. In Brunei, we have a Sultan of Brunei. It's an absolute monarchy. The Sultan is the prime minister. It's also the head of state and head of government, and there are no elections. So being in a democratic environment like in Canada, there was an opportunity for me to learn more about politics. I was curious about it. And after leaving university and as a police officer, I continued to be involved in the community, continued to stay in touch with politicians. And following the 2003 Ontario election, I had the opportunity to become a political advisor to the Minister of Health in Ontario. So there was a complete switch of career for me. But my curiosity and eager to learn about the healthcare system enabled me to become a policy advisor working for the Minister of Health. And over the years, as I look back about my 4 years working as a political advisor to the health minister, I realized that knowledge of health policy has enabled me to apply for jobs in healthcare, in biotech, and life sciences. For a number of years, I was the vice president of a top Canadian healthcare charity, Cystic Fibrosis Canada. And through that role, I was able to apply my knowledge from government to helping the charity advocate for access to medicines and care on behalf of the patients that we serve. And later on, I became a public affairs director for a biotech company, Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And in my role, I was the bridge between the company and governments. So taking my time from government, applying it to the private sector setting, and becoming the link between the business and government officials, both civil servants and elected officials. And whether in policing or during my time in government or in healthcare, the collaboration has been key. And this is also one of the core competencies that I would encourage you to start working on now as a student, working in group projects together. If you have a part-time job or volunteer job, look for opportunities to collaborate across different areas. Because working with people from different fields and partners within and outside organization will help you grow your leadership capacity. So my philosophy as a leader is to surround people who have different skills and expertise than my own. And as an early leader and as an early manager, I always went out to search for people to be part of my team who are smarter than me, people who would challenge my thinking, and people who are willing to say, hey, Ken, let's think about something critically, or bring an innovative approach to a problem that we all have to solve together. So teamwork is critical. And this is something that you don't have to wait until you're in the workforce to start doing. And after spending a number of years in Canada, I decided that I want to get some international working experience. I've lived abroad. I've lived in Asia, and I started to explore what the options are, and was able to get a work visa in the United Kingdom. So I spent a number of years working in London, England. Worked in government, again leveraging my experience in Canada. Work in the government sector in policing. I was able to get a job with the UK government on cutting bureaucratic red tape for frontline workers like police officers and prison guards and immigration workers. And then I saw an ad in the Guardian newspaper that the mayor of London, Mayor Boris Johnson at the time, his office was looking for policy advisors, and they were specifically looking for someone to be the policing policy advisor. So I started my career in policing, as I mentioned earlier. I spent time as a policy advisor in healthcare, both in Canada and in the UK. When I applied for the job, went through a job interview. That certainly enabled me to be the candidate that was successful for the job. And London is a highly international city. You know, if you think Toronto is international, nothing beats London. And I can tell you, when I worked in London, an international city, I met people from all around the world. And when you're the mayor's policing advisor, you're advancing inclusion, diversity, and ensuring that the police service is able to react and respond to the community it serves. And that just brought me back to my time as an international student in my undergrad days, like 20 years prior to that, or 15. I'm giving you my age now, where I met with people from all around the world. And you know, I met someone from Central Asia, and the question was, oh, Ken, you know, how do you know about places like Uzbekistan or Kazakhstan or Tajikistan? I said, well, because when I was at Simon Fraser University years ago, I was in class with someone from the region and was able to meet her and her family, and again, they gave me exposure to that part of the world, and also my exposure to students from Europe, from South America, from Asia, from the Middle East, all around the world. That it also equipped me with that intercultural competency, my comfort with being able to work with people. So then I moved back to Canada, and for the past 10 years, I've held senior leadership positions. I talked earlier about my time in healthcare. And more recently, in the 4 years before coming to Brock University in June of this year, I was an assistant deputy minister with the Ontario government at the Ministry of Tourism, Culture, and Sport. And you know, I can tell you, as I took on my first big leadership position, the learnings, the experience I got during my time as an international student and beyond has made me who I am today. So in closing, I just want to leave you with a couple of tips or advice for you to take with you. Communication is key. Communicate effectively. That's one of the core competencies that's outlined in the document that was shared with me. And I want to be clear to all of you. This does not mean speaking without an accent. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having an accent. It is about getting your point across. So the one advice I want to give you is, if anybody comes to you to say, hey, you need to work in your accent, you need to sound more North American, I'd say, no, I'm proud with the way I communicate, because you can communicate effectively in meeting rooms, in boardrooms, in one-on-one business meetings with the accent you're born with, you gradually develop over time. And even today, I would tell you this, when I am in, so when I was at Vertex Pharmaceuticals, I was part of the global team, and I had meetings with people from different parts of Europe, because one of my bosses was based out in London, England. And when we were in meetings, English is the international language for communication. And I had people speaking at meetings in English with Irish accents, with Indian accents, with Russian accents, with German accents, with Chinese accents, you name it, Korean, Japanese. And that is so special. That makes it so special. And when you think about the flow of the United Nations or the World Trade Organization, the G20 meetings, when the people do speak in English, they speak proudly because they represent their heritage and culture and who they are. So know yourself. And what I mean by knowing yourself is be open to feedback. You know, sometimes it can be tough to get constructive criticisms or feedback. And some, you know, and in some cultures like my own, I know if I were to give my mom feedback, she'd not take it quite well. But something that I learned over time is feedback. People give you feedback in most cases to help you be successful. Don't strive for perfection. Be your best, because I don't even know if perfection exists, to be honest. And if you give in your best, no one can ever fault you. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Even leaders ask for help. You need to know at some point, no one's expecting you to be the expert in everything you do, right? And this is why you have teamwork and collaboration. Something I learned later in life, and I wish I learned earlier in life, is you don't always have to say yes, because being able to say no is a sign of strength. As a young professional, I was eager to please, to get promoted. I had to work long hours to the point where the work-life balance struggles. And it took me a while before I was able to say, I would love to help you out with a project, but I had taken on so much. This is a priority. Happy to do so, or happy to give advice, but or thank you for the opportunity. No, I can't take this on. And sometimes you get a job offer, and if it's not something you want to do, don't feel pressure to take a job. For a number of reasons, you may not want to do it. Personal reasons may not want to be. So saying no sometimes is something that allows people to respect you for who you are. And be aware of your health, both physical and mental. Especially, I think during COVID, this is something that people are more comfortable talking about, and it doesn't matter what level of organization you are, how experienced you are. It's important to look after yourself both physically and mentally. And I will close with my last advice for you, and it's Surgite. And that is Latin for push on, our motto here at Brock University. Why? Because life brings on challenges throughout your career. As a student, I had challenges. There were times when I struggled to get in all my papers on time, or to cram in for an exam. But you push on, right? You push on because you have the ability to push yourself. And when you're in the working world, and I've experienced this throughout my career, is sometimes you have challenging or difficult bosses or colleagues or customers. And know that, when you stand up for yourself and you're able to speak truth to power, when you're able to accept constructive feedback, don't let that discourage you from moving forward or being your best. Because sometimes there are people out there who will always see the negative and will always want to poke at your differences or poke at your weaknesses. No, just know who you are and push on. Restructuring, whether in the private sector, nonprofits, universities, is a common thing. And throughout my years, I've been part of restructuring organizations. I've been restructured often, and you need to realize sometimes you can't take that personal because it's not about whether you were performing well or not. And sometimes organizations do make changes. Push on, right? And if you have to leave an organization by choice or not by choice, know that there is a world out there that will leverage your strengths. I talked a bit about balancing personal and work. Push on, right? Sometimes you think the world is collapsing on you. Know that by pushing on, tomorrow will come. Get a good night's rest. Sometimes you can't sleep at night because you're thinking about work. That happens to me still. I know that there's nothing you can do at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Get a good night's rest. Meditate. Listen to some music, go to bed, wake up fresh in the morning. And build a support network. I know that sometimes whether it's people you work with, people who are close to you physically, people who are in different parts of the world. My best friends aren't necessarily here in Niagara region, where I now live. They're in Toronto, they're in Vancouver, they're in the UK, they're in Asia, and even before COVID, we would connect on FaceTime, on Skype. And now this has become normal. So make sure you have a strong network. And as you look ahead to your career, it doesn't matter how high you go in the organization, whether you become a CEO or CFO or vice president, there will always be challenges. And it all comes down to how you deal with the challenges. Yes, you can look back and say, what if I've done this, what if I've done that? Do that if it helps you reflect, to make better decisions. Do that if it makes your project better. Do that if it helps you deliver better. But don't use that to beat yourself up, because there's no point. You can't go back in time to do that. So with that, I want to say thank you very much for having me join you today. And I look forward to taking questions and listening to the other panelists. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, before I leave you, I am calling in from a very cool place here, the Matchmaker Space on the ground floor of the Rankin Family Pavilion. So if you ever want to come in here and do cool projects, I'm now here in an audio room. You can see this audio room behind you, the audio system. So this is where I am right now. So do come by, check out the space and use it because this is available for the broad community to use. So I thought I'd give a plug since they're so welcoming of me to use the space. So you won't miss it. You see it, Governor Rankin, it's on your left. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.